Yeah, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate podcast. Tonight is the Luton Town preview. So we've got a very, very special guest from the WALT. Is it the WALT podcast, Ollie?
Yeah, so it's the WALT podcast, which stands for We Are Luton Town.
We are Luton Town. Lovely. Well, thanks very much for joining us. Just before we get into the preview, just to remind everybody tunes into the show that we are partnered up with Manchester Mind. Obviously, if you're well aware what Manchester Mind do, they're there to help, talk, chat, just put their arm around people who are maybe struggling with mental health issues. It's one of those where you can look at somebody and you haven't got a clue whether they're suffering in silence, what's going on in their lives. Do we check in on people enough? Don't we check in on people enough? I think there's loads of questions that we could probably all be asking, and we could probably all be doing better. So I'll put a number for you to donate. I'll stick that across there now. Anything would be grateful. I'm just going to bring Darragh in before we get started, guys. Can't believe he's late. I should have left him in the absolute disgrace.
Julio will agree the Ryanair Red has to land safely.
Yes.
I had a few tech issues.
No, that's absolutely fine. So first and foremost, welcome Ollie to the podcast. So Devil's Advocate podcast, if you don't know, we're a Man United channel. We talk everything that is Manchester United. We're nothing like some other podcasts that you may or may not know in and around. We like to talk proper football. We like to have a little bit of banter, but we're here just to have a bit of fun and to recognise, to be fair, a monumental corner that Luton have turned over the past few weeks. So I know you've had a bit of a setback, didn't you, against Sheffield United? Was it 3-1, I think, wasn't it? But the amount of goals you've been scoring, the way that you played against Brighton, Newcastle, you've had a good solid season. It'll be interesting to see if you can stay up. So just before I come to you, Ollie, just to introduce Mark. Mark, good to have you back.
Sorry,
yeah, good to have you back, mate. You feeling all right?
I am. I'm in work at the moment, typically. But the lads, like I said, they're all right. They let me off the floor for a while, so I'm yours for the next hour and a bit or so.
Great stuff. And better late than never, Darragh. Crikey.
Oh, come on. I have to make a good appearance, don't I?
You have made it. It's always that smile, Darragh. Everybody loves that smile. And welcome, Ollie. Just a very, very warm welcome to our podcast, mate. Thank you very much for taking the time out. Thanks for joining us. And listen, let's start with you then, old friend. All joking apart, we are a serious channel. We are a serious Manchester United channel, but we love football. We're football purists on here, and we love to talk about the game. You have been playing quite well recently. What are you looking forward to the most about tomorrow's game? And then we'll go into the results, what we think, how you're going to set up and style of play a little bit later. But what are you most looking forward to?
I have to say, what I'm looking forward to, welcoming the stars of Manchester United to Little Kennelworth Road. Yes. We'll be starstruck, won't we? I don't know how we're going to survive little old Luton. When Absolutely. the Giants, the big swinging dicks of Manchester United come to town. Mercy. Yeah, look, we had Man City at Kennelworth Road. We actually ran them closer at home than you guys did at your place. You lost 3-0 to them. We lost 2-1. We were leading in that game.
You were.
And there was naivety from our part. Like, I won't lie about that. But we've had, the big clubs in Liverpool. We've had Arsenal, who we ran very close. We absolutely demolished Brighton, played them off the park. Who else have we had that's been great? Chelsea, we chucked it in against Chelsea. But you're right in saying that we have turned a corner. But a big part of it is, like, for you guys, where you're football purists, you have to remember that we were in the conference 10 years ago.
Yeah,
but if you go back 30 years, though, Luton Town were not in the conference. Luton Town were one of the founding members of the Premier League. Unfortunately, we were relegated prior to the start of the Premier League, but we had a decade in the Premier League where we were regularly in cup finals, semi-finals. We were we sort of pushed the boundaries of football and actually set the trend for like how modern day football is played with some of the stars that we had. It's very good to be back in the big time. Obviously the first 10 games of the season were quite concerning, but obviously the gulf in class between the Championship and the Premier League is monumental. And look, it's getting bigger every single season. It really is. And just look at how Burnley and Sheffield United are doing. That goes to show how it is when they both spent big. Burnley spent over 100 mil, Sheffield United over 80 million. Luton Town have spent in initial fees just 20 million. Yeah. And that goes to show that the job that the entire club, off the pitch, on the pitch, recruitment that we've done, it really is staggering. And yeah, those first 10 games, it was a learning curve. We were naive. We really were.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. I think most teams are when they come up, to be honest. I think you're absolutely right about the golfing class. I've sampled Kennelworth Road myself twice in the 80s. I think we got beat both times. And I think, did we draw there in the 90s, 92, one apiece? I'm just trying to think of the year of the plastic pitch, Asa Harford. Would that have been early 80s?
So the plastic pitch was 1985 to 1991. I got to say the pitch looked really good. People didn't like playing on it, but as I said, it sort of set it was the precedent for like playing good football, because we weren't like Wimbledon. We did not go long. We had players that could play. Mal Donaghy, who moved to Man United in 1990. He could play, and that was how we started. We were playing out from the back in the 80s, and we're playing through Ricky Hill.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I have this argument, and the lads will tell you this. I have this argument all the time about how certain managers change the landscape of football. Absolute horse shit. They never did. Football's always been the same. And if you know your history, and it doesn't matter which club you are, by the way, there are certain teams that use the goalkeeper to expand the play. There are certain teams that use their fullbacks to expand the play. There are certain teams that played out the back. It's nothing new. Football's never been anything new. What was new and what was pioneering at that time was the old plastic pitch. So where I live, I live very close to Lilleshall, and we were one of the very first to have a AstroTurf pitch because of the kids that were playing at the School of Excellence at the time. And I always remember when I was at Kennelworth Road watching Arthur Albiston tiptoe around because he couldn't quite get to grips with the pace of the ball, the bounce of the ball, and the way that we had to play. And I think he scored. I think he went in front actually in that game 1-0. I can't remember who got the goal. I would have been about 15 at the time, I think, something along those lines. But you're right, Luton Town were a very, very good side, a good ball playing side, and then it all kind of, that was it. 1992 onwards, 93, that was it. You all kind of you kind of fell away for whatever reason. There was internal struggles, wasn't there, at the club? There was issues. For whatever reason, it didn't matter. But like everything, you kept ploughing away, keep coming, and now, as you say, you're back in the big time. Just want to bring the lads in, if I can, about their memories of Luton Town as they were growing up. Mark, have you got any memories of Luton Town? Have you?
I don't, being honest with you, Sue.
Okay,
I'm not going to sit here and lie.
These guys look so young. These guys look so young.
I was going to leave with the same thing. I was just going to say, literally, I remember watching, let's say, Soccer AM. You hear the odd mention of Luton Town back then, but even then, my recollection of Luton other than the last 5 years where they've progressively gone up the English divisions, it's zilch. I'll admit that right now.
That's okay. Luton Town at that particular time, they got pitches. There was a couple of clubs who were playing Premier League kind of level or, Division 1 at the time, which had really tight pitches. Kennelworth Road was one of them. The old Dell was another, parts of Highbury. So I don't know whether it's still the same, Ollie. Are the players and the fans on the players? Or, is it still quite tight there? Has much changed?
Oh, it is so much tighter than it was.
Really?
Yeah. It is. So you remember the executive boxes that go down to the left of the Oak Road end?
Yeah.
So those have been taken away. So unlike Liverpool, who tried to rebuild a stand in the off season, we actually managed to do it. So that is one length of the pitch that we knocked down and rebuilt in 13 weeks. It was the reason why our first home game against Burnley had to get pushed back. But it's tremendous. So they've rebuilt the bobbers stands, but they've modernized it. And it's so close to the pitch. So I sat in the bobbers stands for an FA Cup game against Bolton, and it's amazing how close you are to the pitch. And on the other side, you're just as close. You really are. There was actually an incident in a playoff semi-final last season, which wasn't great. One of our fans put a hand on Amad Diallo, who's a United player on loan. Who was at Sunderland. And that, I think that guy got banned for life, which is, understandable because you should, abuse is fine, providing it's not racist abuse. That's absolutely fine. You can call a player whatever you want, providing it's not skirting any boundaries. But you lay a hand on a player, no. So different but that just goes to show how tight it is, and believe me, United players are going to be getting so much abuse from the second they go in from their warm up to the second they come out, and then all through the game.
Brilliant.
The fans are going to be on top of them throughout the entire game. Like whenever the ball goes out for a throw in, they're not going to want to go back and get the ball from the crowd.
Yeah, that's how it should be, Ollie, isn't it? Old days in football, old friend. Mark, let me bring you in then. Darragh, I'm going to bring you in as well. What is your expectations? Just overall expectations about the game. And now Ollie's giving you a bit of a flavour about Luton, where the pitch is, the types of fans we can expect, that thing. What's your expectations now, Mark?
I was actually at the reverse fixture on Old Trafford going back a couple of months ago, and with that, I'd walked out of the ground sensing that I felt like a defeat ultimately, again, ironically, at the time, because we were just very, very poor that particular day. Now, obviously, we're on a decent run of form ourselves, let alone Luton. I know, obviously, they had a hiccup against Sheffield. No one foreseen that, as per se, considering the run of form that Luton had been on. But I'd be relatively confident going into the game, being honest with you. I think that, with the run of form we're on, I know, obviously, there's a couple of injuries and setbacks in regards to potentially Luke Shaw again being out, and as well as that Martinez obviously out for again a longer period of time, to name just two. But I think we have the players to be able to withstand the pressure of Luton. However, obviously the left hand side would be it's one of them where I'd be wary of, in the sense of who's going to play left full for us, which obviously we'll probably get into later on, because the likes of Ogbene and that, one thing about Luton, that progressive play going forward, they're just very dynamic and quick. And one thing as well is that they just seem to not give up. It's even their off days, they're still at you, and very good young players who are willing and just full of energy. Like what Ollie had saying going back previous in regards to the recruitment and the standards at the club, and what they had presented to the Premier League this year has been nothing short of outstanding, really, with the money that, like he'd referenced previously, the clubs that had come up, the likes of Burnley. Seems like Vincent Kompany has a blank bleeding checkbook there, and I don't know why, because the amount of points they've got on the board is, I don't know. But anyway, I'm just saying, I'm very fond of Luton as per se as a football club, and obviously the likes of Ogbene and that at the club, which obviously we look out for every other week, considering myself and Darragh being Irishmen. So how do you find it, Ollie, in regards to the likes of Ogbene and that being at the club, one of your more outstanding players so far in this period of Premier League play?
So he's actually been filling in at right wing back since Isaac Kabore has been at AFCON. But he's done really well there. He's sort of been a victim of the rotating formation that we've done. So we started off by trying to play the same formation we played last season, 5-3-2. It didn't work, so we went with wingers. We had Ogbene left wing on left wing. He absolutely tore Alexander-Arnold to shreds when we played Liverpool. He couldn't live with him. It was unbelievable. And then because of that shift to AFCON, and now Kaboure's back, who's this lad that's on loan from Man City, Ogbene's made that position his own. And we actually signed someone called Daiki Hashioka, a Japanese international, to step up into that right wing-back position, give competition for Kabore. But Chiro Ogbene has just left them both in the dust. Because not only is he the second fastest player in the Premier League this season, he's so fast, he absolutely attacks like a demon on that right-hand side. Just ask Dan Burn. Monday Night Football did a whole feature on how Ogbene pretty much ruined Dan Burn.
He did,
It was tremendous. Like, he'll go on the outside, he'll cut in on the inside. He's a tremendous player. Ireland are so lucky to have him because he is that good. And everyone laughed. Everyone laughed when we signed him. Like, getting a free agent from Rotherham, like who are, you know, battling relegation. But Chiro Ogbene is the poster child of our recruitment model. We take people that are unfancied, or we take broken things like Ross Barkley, and we give them a platform to perform. We give them faith, we give them belief, we let them flourish. And Chiro Ogbene, whether we put him on the left, whether we put him on the right, he's great. He really is. And I saw a comment that came in that Lindelof, I hope Lindelof is starting left wing back, because Lindelof versus Ogbene will be a car crash. Brighton changed their left-sided defender 3 times in the game. Milner went off in the 20th minute. They brought on Hinselshaw, and then Hinselwood even, that young lad that they had. And then they brought on Tariq Lamptey, who couldn't even keep up with Chiro Ogbene. So then they just switched Lamptey to the other side. They changed it so quickly. After 20 minutes at half time, no one can live with Chiro Ogbene. What a player.
It's like that, even though, like, even with, like, Ogbene, the problem is for opposing teams, even if he's having an off day, it won't matter in regards to the industry he gives you, because he keeps running at you, because he's not told not to, if that makes sense. It's like, attack him. And ultimately, like I said, he has a poor day, and like he's that bit off the pace at times in regards to, you know, his thinking and his but not like never his work rate. So even if he's having a poor game, he's still constantly at you and just troublesome for defenders. So troublesome.
Absolutely. Like you go back to what Ali said there about people laughing at Luton signing Ogbene. Straight away I said fantastic signing, and I'm not even just saying it because he's an Irishman. I just knew what he was capable of. Because of course, being Irish, you kind of follow where your players decide to go. And as soon as I saw he signed for Luton, I goes, that's the move he needed, because it was a make or break for Ogbene, because he'd already proved himself with Rotherham, done a decent job there. So it was just a matter of, could he step up to the plate? And by God, like, everyone laughed at me when I was saying back in November, watch Ogbene against United, because he will do a job. No, he didn't have... No, my recollection of the game is slightly fuzzy. He didn't have the best games. He didn't have the worst of games against.
He was injured in that game. He was injured. He was out. He was carrying an injury.
Yeah,
and then he was out for almost 2 months after that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I knew he had the injury at that point. Well, it was after that, but it was the fact that people were saying, "Oh, who's this Ogbene fella?" I goes, lads, watch him. You will know what he's like. And like, going back to what you mentioned there about like the Sheffield United and Burnley going signing left, right, and centre, the fact you stuck your structure, your recruitment structure, and even not going past the wage structure and everything, it's fantastic to see. It was very refreshing to see, even because you see any club will come up from the Championship. Watch whoever comes up from the Championship now, whether it be the people who bounced down into the Championship from last season to this season. Anyone who comes up from the Championship tends to spend big because they feel they need to do that to compete with the best of the best. Now, naturally enough, it has to be done to a certain level. But I really do commend Luton to sticking to their guns. from day one, I said Luton will not be a team to mess around with. They'll know a bit. They'll have the small club mentality. No offense, Ollie. In that case, it is a small club mentality where they'll have to come out swinging just to get a result, especially against like Liverpool. Like I watched that game against Liverpool, and I was just out. I was absolutely struck because I goes, "Oh shit, we're playing them in a couple of weeks." Like whether you go when you are Kennelworth Road, or whether you go away to, let's say, Etihad, Old Trafford, wherever, you're going to come out swinging because you know you're fighting for that result, and that's the one thing I love about Luton the most, because they know they have their backs to the wall in that regard, but they'll come out swinging each and every time.
Wherever you go in the Premier League, though, no matter what team you are, if you are not at 100% and not geared up for the game, you are going to get punished.
Oh, absolutely.
No matter what team you are. Yeah. Like you can be Man United, you can be Liverpool. Well, we've seen shock results. We've seen Man City lose to Wolves. You know, every year in the Prem, there is that result that happens. And if you don't turn up, you are going to get turned over. But if Man United do get turned over tomorrow, you cannot say it's because they didn't turn up. And not tomorrow, Sunday. Sorry. These Premier League schedules, they're very annoying. You know, the games change all the time. I never know what time I need to leave my house anymore. So it can happen. Like Brighton, they came out with their game plan. We executed our game plan perfectly, which was essentially press them on the edge of their own box, because we know that they're always going to try and play out from the back. And there could be a very similar game plan with you guys as well.
It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, our challenge is going to be who we play at left back against Ogbonna if he plays. If I'm Lindelof, I'm going to give Ogbonna as much space as I can. In fact, the thing about what I've noticed about him, and correct me, Ollie, if I'm wrong, but he makes the fullback think. And that's the wrong way. You've got to make the attacker think. As a fullback, I've got to make him think. And the way to do that is to give him that space. A lot of fans think that's absolutely crazy. But once he gets to a certain point, he's got a pinch point. He's got to make a decision. Now, from what I've seen about him, he's never had to make that decision. You're absolutely right. He roasted Trent Alexander-Arnold, didn't he? Just absolutely tore him a new one. Probably, I don't think anyone's done that since Rashford did it a few seasons ago when he tore Trent a new one. That's the best I've seen anyone play against him. I don't think Trent's a particularly good defender, by the way, but I thought he played to Ogbonna's strengths. We've got to do something different. If it's Lindelof, he's got to start thinking immediately what he's going to do, and he's got to push him into that pinch point. And once you push him into that pinch point, I'll be interested to see what his decision-making is like. Does he rely on pace, or does he rely on a bit of guile? That's what I would do if I'm Lindelof. If we've got Shaw, again, Shaw's going to have to give him 2 or 3 yards, because Shaw's all right over 4 or 5 yards.
He's not rapid. He's lost a lot of his pace since the leg break.
He's got that little bit of acceleration more than Lindelof, but it still wouldn't be enough to to stop it. So we've got to be very, very technical and clever, I think, how we play him. But then there's other areas where you can exploit us. I don't know whether Chong will play, just as an example. You know, he's a tidy player, pretty good midfielder for you. You know, I've seen that's where he sits in. I've seen him do that. He's quite good as a 10 as well. Got a couple of goals this season. Do you bring a Langer on so you spear us on both sides?
Well, we haven't got a Langer.
Is he injured? Sorry.
No, a Langer plays for Nottingham Forest.
Oh, sorry. What am I talking about?
He's a decent player, though.
Why did I say Langer?
You're probably thinking of Ted and Mengi.
Yeah, sorry.
Don't worry.
Anyway, my school thought was, would you attack us down both wings, both flanks? Because as well as Darragh's playing right now at the moment, there are issues defensively with Darragh. So if we've got issues defensively, left back and right back, are you expecting Luton to try and exploit that rather than through the middle, where we're a little bit cuter with Mainu and Casemiro and maybe Fernandes if he drops in as an 8? That's what I was getting at.
Look,
I don't know why I was thinking about Langer.
There is punishment. No, because you're thinking about wing play.
We
are big on wing play. And the fact is, like I believe Sky Sports released the average positions of every Premier League team. And the most striking thing from there was that our left wing back, Alfie Doughty, who's been catching all sorts of headlines, and I could see him going to one of the big six, genuinely, Alfie Doughty, because he's got 6 assists already this season from left wing back. He's a naturally left-footed wing back. He's absolutely tremendous. And he's going to be attacking down the left. And then you have Ogbene attacking from the right. But then you have to watch for those crossfield balls coming from Barkley and Lokonga in the middle.
Yeah.
And then you have to watch what's going to be happening at the back post, because Carlton Morris is going to be up in the air really early, looking for the knockback across the face of goal. The question is, who completes that front three, filling in behind? Chong, I imagine it won't be Tahith Chong. We've been using him as like a sort of an impact sub. He's not too effective, like from the off. He's sort of behind the pecking order, behind Andros Townsend, who is a pressing machine. He's a demon. And then you have Jordan Clark, who's just come back from injury. I imagine none of you will know anything about Jordan Clark. He's the guy that scored our goal in the playoff final. He's very good, very industrious, also very good at pressing. But these players are very important for how we like to press high up the pitch. But then you've also got to watch for the diagonal balls from our wide centre-back. So Ted Mengi will be pinging them across fields, trying to find Alfie Doughty. Then you have Gabe Osho, who can go either way. You know, he'll spray it out to Ogbene, he'll spray it out to Alfie Doughty, or he'll just go for the simple pass. And you're going to see a Ross Barkley masterclass tomorrow. If you saw that game against Arsenal, he sat who's that fella? Odegaard. He sat Odegaard down about 6 or 7 times in that game. Ross Barkley playing in this deep-lying playmaker role where he's literally picking it up off the defense. We have threats coming from all over the pitch. Like Ross Barkley has 3 or 4 assists. He has 3 goals. Alfie Doughty, various assists. Chiro Ogbene, goals and assists. Elijah Adebayo, 9 goals. Carlton Morris, 5 goals, 4 assists. There are goals all over our pitch right now. There really are. And set pieces will be dangerous.
Yeah,
they really will.
Yeah.
There's a question I've got. I was going to ask Mark about that, actually. How can we combat this Luton team then, and how can we avoid set pieces? Because, you know, I think we may well struggle because we run a hybrid marking system now. We don't particularly zonal mark and we don't particularly man mark. We run a hybrid system. What do you think we can do to accommodate that, Mark?
And well, look, with all due respect, Luton obviously have had a good string of games, bar the weekend. But like, Ollie, like we're putting you on a pedestal here. You've been hopped off by Sheffield United the weekend. But Sheffield United are the worst team in the Premier League, by the way. Yeah,
but however, we expected that result. Every Luton Town fan said after these performances, we had gone 9 games unbeaten. Yeah. And every Luton Town fan said it would be the most Luton thing to lose to Sheffield United. And lo and behold, we lost to Sheffield United. Because what they did was they sat back. They had 11 men behind the ball. They hit us on the counter. They had 3 shots, 3 goals. And there were 2 dubious penalties, one for us, one for them. But that disrupted the flow of the game. And when a team comes to sit back, you'll see our most disappointing results of the season, bar our first 2 games against Brighton and Chelsea. You'll see all our games have been incredibly tight affairs. We've been solid enough at the back. We've been decent enough going forwards. We've scored as many goals as Man United, haven't we? 33 goals in the Premier League. The only difference is our goals that we conceded 7 goals in the first 2 games just because we were so naive. Like we brought the game back against Brighton, the first game of the season, to 2-1. We attacked. We got pegged really badly because all our players were upfield and we got countered on. But that happens. And look, we aren't so naive anymore. We have a game plan. It is a bit risky how we defend. You'll have 3 men up top. We will have 3 defenders man to man on those 3. So it will be a game of, can you get those extra men overload the attack from midfield? Because then if we don't track the runners from midfield, then we can get punished. But also, if our defenders happen to lose one of your, or gets beat by one of your attackers, and we've seen that with Gabe Osho 2 weeks in a row, he lost Anthony Gordon, then he also lost Cameron Archer. But if you come to play, you'll be in for a game because we will surprise you.
No doubt, we know it's going to be a difficult game. Sorry, Mark. So how can we combat Luton then? And then Darragh comes straight in, pal.
I suppose again it's about like the structure and the tactical point of view that we set up with ourselves. Like we obviously know of the players that Ollie had mentioned in regards to ultimately pace and industry, let alone like their playmaking capacities with the likes of Ross Barkley and that. And like what you said, the two centre halves, because ultimately our two centre halves are ball playing centre halves between Ten Mengi and the other Osho. I like Osho in particular. Very good ball playing centre halves, and like that they try to open up themselves as well and play into midfield. And that, from a character point of view, the team, like I said, like they're good to watch at times. However, like I personally think we'd be too strong come Sunday. Now, like Ollie, like I said, probably have a difference of opinion on that. But you're right. Based on the fact as well they're playing Kennelworth Road, and Man United players wouldn't have seen anything like this since God was a boy for a long, long time, seeing the ground like that, basically playing on the pitch like that. But as well as that, isn't it the beauty of football? Someone like Luton Town coming up to the Premier League and having these ready-made stars, let alone Manchester United players, but across the board coming to a ground like that, and basically you're in the midst of this is football, and this is what football should be. Like I said, Stu, going back to it, just from a tactical point of view, we need to be on the ball, particularly we obviously the wide players, because that's what Ollie had said, and obviously it's there for fans alike to see. They're generally a wide playing team with pace and industry and power, and let alone that, like we're just referencing the two like wide lads, but let alone that they're strikers as well. Obviously, have come back with a lot of goals and assists this year as well. So like that, we just have to be on point. But like I know I'd referenced it previously, but the left hand side for us in regard to a defensive point of view is going to be it could be like literally key to coming out with 3 points there, Kennelworth Road come Sunday evening, So that's one thing that we have to nail down. But as well as that, like we said, the lads are referencing in the comments, it literally could be a car crash if it's a case where Lindelof is played left full versus someone, again, to reference someone like Ogbene, particularly with the pace out wide. Like he come off the bench there the weekend, and I was just, like you can go back in a bit, revert back in a bit. He's just obviously he's not suited to playing in a left full position, is he? He's predominantly right footed. And what do we do there? Delow is in the is literally his prime in regards to his Man United career. So people keep putting him on a pedestal in that regard. But he's gonna have his work cut out for him on Sunday, no doubt about it. Yeah, no matter what side he ends up playing on. So we'll see. But I think it's like these are the games where Man United been on a string of good results over the past while. These are the games where I know it said it previously, you had to be stand up and be counted. These are like proper football games. And hopefully we can go to Kennelworth or come, 5 o'clock, come 6 o'clock on Sunday, we'll have 3 points in the bag.
Look, yeah, go for it, Darragh.
No, I think, I'll be honest, I think a lot of what I wanted to say was said by Mark, because I'm just going to be mirroring a lot of what he said in relation to how our wing, where our fullbacks are up to the task, basically, because like I seen in the comments there, Camboila right back and Dallow left back. It's something worth experimenting, but I'm there like, do you really want to throw a young fella like Camboila to the Wolves in that regard? Because
there's another one here, Darragh, and Anthony.
When we drop out to the left back, should be a cup.
I think he's talking pace match, isn't he? He's trying to talk pace match. That's what he's talking.
Like I know it's more of a sarcastic comment, no disrespect, Mark, but I get the idea, because in fairness to Anthony, for all his faults, he's got a defensive work rate. He's not going to be able to cope with that. If it was a serious comment, with all due respect, Anthony, like unless they're playing a very kind of like in the way Luton started off the Premier League in the 5-3-2 with the wing backs and everything, unless they're trying to suit something like that, it ain't gonna work because you're gonna have to play your wing back at such a depth to actually cope with it, and it might just mismatch the system. But what to go back to what Ollie was making point of earlier about Ross Barkley, that man had fallen so far off the face of the earth. To see him come back, like I'll be honest, he had a little resurgence at Nice. Nobody really expected anything of him, and he's doing a job for Luton. And all credit to him because his fall off the face of the earth was massive. Considering not being funny, a lot of players like Danny Drinkwater, like relatively decent players, have gone to Chelsea and just fallen flat. So for Ross Barkley to pick himself up, especially from how far he fell, because where was he before Nice? Can someone remind me?
He was at Chelsea.
He was on loan at Aston Villa.
Chelsea.
Yes. He was on loan at Aston Villa, Everton.
He was owned by Chelsea, and then Chelsea loaned him to Nice, and then contract expired.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a Portman move to Nice. Never mind. But no, like I always rated Barkley, and then he moved to Chelsea, fell flat. I thought he was done. But like I suppose what kind of caught me off guard with Barkley though was I probably was so used to seeing him as a number 10. So to see him, I've only watched a handful of Luton games now. Bear with me when I say that to see him fall into that playmaker role, in a deeper role, it kind of caught me off guard if I'm honest, because it's not something I expected of Ross Barkley playing naturally in his younger days as a number 10 kind of role. Now, Ollie, you obviously watch more of him than I would, so if you want to pick up on that, because I just personally know him as the number 10, something I never expected was to see him playing that deeper role.
Oh, believe me, we all assumed he was going to be playing in the 10. We thought he was going to be behind the attackers. He wouldn't be affecting the game deeper on the pitch. But it was a Rob Edwards masterstroke, because he's taken a player who is comfortable on the ball, and apparently, I don't know from where, Ross Barkley has these other aspects to his game. Tackling, tremendous dribbling. His defensive stats are off the scale as well. I checked them the other day compared to other Premier League midfielders. He's in the 70th percentile for interceptions with midfielders. He's in the 80th for tackles from midfield. These are great numbers from a player that you would have just assumed is an attacking midfielder. But he's sitting just in front of the defense in a double pivot with Lokonga, working so well. And it took him a while to sort of bed into this. You know, we had him, I think his first game was the Chelsea game. You could see he wasn't match sharp, and then he was injured for a month. But when he came back against Nottingham Forest, we were 2-0 down in the 80th minute. Ross Barkley comes on, changed the game. Just completely changed the game in this deeper midfield role. And it works because he's sitting back. He can see the entire pitch in front of him. He can see the space that he's going to run into. But the most important thing that Ross Barkley gives us is that he's very calm. And you would have seen it in that goal against Liverpool, which was a fantastic counter-attacking move from their corner. Ball falls to Ross Barkley in our area. And the entire stadium was saying, away, away. Everyone was just wanted him to launch upfield, let another attack. He beats two men on the edge of our box, brings it out, slots it out wide to Kabore, points where he wants Chong to run, and essentially orchestrates a tremendous counter-attacking move that takes up the pitch in 6.5 seconds. Unreal. And no one thought he had this aspect of his game. But the thing is, players, remember, he's 30 now. He just turned 30, and he actually capped his 30th birthday with a goal against Arsenal. Players evolve. Wayne Rooney dropped deeper, didn't he?
Yeah.
Steven Gerrard dropped deeper. These types of players that have the footballing brain, they like to drop deeper so they can see more of the pitch. So they have these passes, and you'll see the range of passing that Ross Barkley has in his locker is insane. It's a joy to watch, and without any doubt, he is the greatest player I have seen play for Luton Town. I'm too young to have seen Ricky Hill play. I've never seen him play. But everyone's saying, yeah, it's Ricky Hill because he did over 500 appearances for Luton. But just the stuff that Ross Barkley does in a Luton shirt, I'm delighted this will be on Super Sunday, so everyone can see Ross Barkley in full flow.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you will all see it. But I hope there's one person that does bother to turn up, and that's Gareth Southgate. Because the rumours going around that Kobbie Mainoo is in the frame for an England call-up at the age of 18. No respect to Kobbie Mainoo. I think he's a very talented kid. He is. But you have a peak Ross Barkley who has seamlessly transitioned into a new position, a position that England needs, someone to sit behind Bellingham and Rice. You have Ross Barkley, and Gareth Southgate decided to go off to Amsterdam to watch Jordan Henderson play backwards passes for 90 minutes. And Jordan Henderson hasn't even won a game at Ajax. Don't know what that's about. But it's important that everyone watches Ross Barkley. I hope he turns it on Sunday as well. But his renaissance is one of the greatest stories of the Premier League this season. And we got him on a free. Tremendous.
I think it'll be interesting how we cope with Barkley, for sure. There are some people that don't rate him. There's some people that do. It's all subjective. And you're absolutely right, by the way, about where Barkley plays. And I think that's going to be quite key to what we do and how we drag him away from your your single pivot centre half, is it? Because you play three at the back, don't you? Mm-hmm. It'll be quite interesting to see what we do with that. I think we'll play our short game needs to be 100% on its button. I think our trio of our two centre halves and Casemiro will be quite key. But then the quad in the middle, which would be Mino, Garnacho, you're going to have to play Garnacho and Rashford slightly narrow rather than wide. People will look at that and think, well, you're going to expose your two fullbacks. Not necessarily, because if you kind of use that as an umbrella type of shape formation, you'll be able to combat any fullbacks. By doing that, that should bring Barkley into play a little bit more, because he'll have to concentrate, not actually go into step by step where Bruno's going to be, but he'll have to think a little bit more about where Bruno is. Now, once we are in that position, if we do attack deep and we are on a counter attack, I think we can exploit you in behind. I think if you've got your two wing backs up, I think we can get in those 15-yard spaces in behind. I don't think it'll be easy. And you're absolutely right. If we do our normal formation, you've got 3-on-3, it's not going to work for me. We're going to have to come away. We're going to have to come out.
You can isolate us, though. If you have Garnacho and Rashford running at... so Rashford would be on Mengi, most likely Mengi, who he probably knows quite well. Hopefully they're having some banter during the game, and then Mengi just throws him into the crowd, hopefully. Isolating Garnacho against Amari Bell, who's a Jamaican international. He interestingly, Amari Bell scored the goal in the conference that got Luton promoted. So for another team, Kidderminster. So he was playing for Kidderminster Harriers. He scored the goal that secured Luton Town promotion that evening when we weren't playing. So it's an interesting story. There are about 10 players that were playing in non-league like about a decade ago. It's mad. But if you isolate Garnacho and Rashford against Mengi and Bell, it could be a very long afternoon, because we've seen what happens when players get dragged out of position, like when Osho got isolated on the right side. But there are ways that you can get at us, because the man-on-man defending can be exploited very, very easily.
No, I totally agree. So I want to see, culminating then in what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Højlund push on Ocho and really push him back. And again, that should elevate, give us a little bit of yardage between Barclay and his protection that he has done. And he has done it really, really well, don't get me wrong. So that's how I think we're going to have to play. Whether we do that or not, I don't know. It'd be quite an interesting matchup, I think. Darragh, just coming to you then, who is going to be our key player, would you say, come Sunday? I think we've, Ollie's probably pointed out Barclay and as key to unlocking Manchester United. Who unlocks Luton?
I think Keane made the point there. If it was Keane controlling the channel page earlier in the chat, I believe Fernandes, depending on what Fernandes turns up, could, depending on what way he plays his passing today or tomorrow, Sunday even. Even my mind's gone now. Thanks, Ollie. But no, I think with the way Bruno's passes can just ping through, it could be effective. You look at set pieces, how Maguire controls the aerial duels as well is another aspect. You kind of have to look at everywhere across the pitch really to see who's going to be ready for it, because we know what Darragh has his weaknesses defensively. So as we were kind of making the point there about covering the wing back situation, it makes no difference whether you put him on the left or the right playing Ogbeni or whoever be playing on the left. It's going to be a case of Darragh will have his work cut out either way. You look across the pitch, Highland, he's on form at the moment. He could drag us through with another scrappy goal. We don't know. We just don't know what's going to come, because it's like with Luton, you just don't know what you're going to get. And all due respect to Luton, fantastic team. I really do enjoy watching when I do get a chance to see them on TV. Having said that, though, I do feel nobody really took Luton seriously until that Liverpool game, where they kind of made people stand up and say, okay, maybe Luton aren't the team to just knock around anymore. They're actually proper serious. So, nobody really knows until they're actually at Kennelworth Road what they're going to get. And, it'll be a battle in the midfield, I do feel, as to who comes out on top, or even if it's a stalemate. I wouldn't be surprised if it's stalemate, just going on based on how tactically the two midfields set up, really. So
I do worry, if I may cut in, I do worry about if Bruno Fernandes can find that range of passing through our centre backs, either the space between Mengi and Osho or Bell and Osho, for Højlund to run onto, because unless I'm mistaken, Rasmus Højlund's pretty fast, isn't he?
The raw pace is just phenomenal.
Yeah, so I am concerned about Rasmus Højlund being isolated against Gabe Osho, because if we play a high line and Fernandes slips one pass just through between our centre backs and Højlund's running, through, and Osho's tracking that run, I do worry that 9 out of 10 times Højlund's going to be through on goal clean. Okay. That is a key to unlocking us.
That leads me on to my next question, both for you and Mark, really. If Højlund gets through, what's he facing in Kaminsky? It is Kaminsky, isn't it, your keeper?
Yeah, so Thomas Kaminsky, he's, cost 2.5 million. It's no 20 mil that Burnley dropped on James Trafford. But I'll tell you what, we got a player who's very much the finished article. His distribution is not always great, especially the Burnley game. I think, pretty much every single long ball went straight, clean out of play, but they were booing him constantly because he's ex-Blackburn. He's in the frame to start for Belgium in the Euros because Courtois is injured and going to be missing it. He's a tremendous shot stopper, and he's easily the best keeper we've probably had since, I'd say, Les Seeley.
I was going to say the man.
Yeah, Les. Everyone loves Les.
Dennis the Menace. Played for us as well. Bless him.
Yeah. I think he won the FA Cup with you while he was on loan from us.
Yeah, he did indeed. Yeah, he did. Yeah, in place of Jim Leighton.
Yeah, the mighty Jim Leighton.
Mighty Jim had
the man with no front teeth.
That's right. Well, and Big Joe Jordan's done the same. We've had a few of those, but no. So you rate him then? You rate Kaminsky?
Yeah, very, very much so. Obviously, like any goalkeeper, he's prone to the odd clanger, but he's not like so we broke our transfer record, like a 30-year transfer record. But we signed a player in 1988, Lars Elstrup, who very colourful character. If you Google him, he has a very colourful history post football, including being involved in a cult and streaking on a pitch and doing naked handstands in a Danish Super League game. So we broke our transfer record after 30 years when we got promoted to the Championship, signed a Croatian international called Simon Sluga, who he was very mixed. He pretty much threw it in his own net in his debut. And compared to where we were then and where we are now, Thomas Kaminski is a very good goalkeeper. He's light years ahead of the keeper, Ethan Horvath, that got us promoted last season.
Brilliant. No, brilliant. So, look, I didn't know a huge amount about him. I have seen over the last couple of weeks, he seems to have the whole team seems to have got his acts together. So, Mark, we know we've got issues between our sticks. When you've got, what is Adebayo? He's about 6'3", isn't he? Tall and wide.
He's taller than 6'3". He's 6'5". Oh, he's big. He's lanky, but he's strong. Whereas Carlton Morris is 6'1" and very wide.
What do you think our man Anan is going to do with Adebayo? Is Adebayo going to be licking his lips at the prospect of facing? Because right now, as much as Ollie's waxed lyrical about Kaminski, you kind of back Hoyland as well. That's why I wanted to get that. So I think it's an interesting conundrum. So I wonder where we would back Adebayo and Onana, Mark. Sorry to put that one on you, mate, but
in regards to Onana, look, he come back off a terrible AFCON campaign versus obviously having a very, very poor first debut Premier League season at Manchester United as well. Look, in the game since he came back from AFCON, he's just been typical Andre Onana, really. However, like, every so often he can pull off an absolutely world-class save where you're like, jeez, there's a keeper, like. But then again, like, I'll be honest with you, once the press happens, when the ball is at his feet, I'm like, you take a deep breath, because it's like time stands still in his mind. It's not around every single Manchester United fan who's watching the particular game at the time. It's like, please release. We know you're good in regards to your distribution. There's no doubt about it. But I think personally that his obscene mentality outweighs his talent. He had an interview there going back a while ago when he basically referenced, he said, whoever the report was, I forget who it was, and he basically said, do you think, honest to God, that like the best goalkeeper in the Champions League went from the best to the worst in a 6-month period? And like, crazy mentality, as in fair play to the chap. I wish I had that mentality myself when it came to playing football. However, this man is poor at times, very poor. Once the press goes in, the distribution becomes nil to none, really. The shot stopping is there. There's no doubt about it. Shot stopping is there at times. However, in regards to what Ollie had referenced in regards to his own goalkeeper, he suffers with making absolute clangers at times. And then ultimately, due to the fact that he's Manchester United goalkeeper, like one of the most scrutinised positions in the world, he then gets scrutinised, particularly off his own fans, first and foremost, and then becomes a laughingstock of the Premier League. In regards to Luton strikers going into the game, or Luton attacking players going into the game, come Sunday, they would have done their homework. They know his strengths and ultimately his weaknesses, and I'm sure the likes of Karen Larson that up top will press him quickly and formidably. And will be probably allowed to do so. However, like, as well as that, I know Shu had reference in regards to the goalkeepers and ultimately their attacking players, but like, we have like to an extent like an inform back line when they're structured together. You have the likes of like Maguire coming into form, and which obviously he was written off, let's be honest, by like 90% of Manchester United.
He was.
Like, he's showing face, the likes of Varane. He's definitely lost a couple of yards of pace, and ultimately, again, I think it's affected his judgment. But the two of them probably realistically will start centre half together on Sunday, and they won't have an easy time of it. But however, like it'd be just an interesting battle, won't it be? Ultimately, you're looking at the tech that Luton have, pace, power, entry, like I referenced earlier on, and versus are to an extent Stu centre half and Harry Maguire. Look, it definitely wouldn't have them one of them things I wouldn't have been saying so much 4 to 5 months ago. However,
10 out of 10 for me, Mark. 10 out of 10, Big Harry.
Yeah, he's at the winning this over, really, hasn't he? To an extent, like I said, But like he's like that. He's like any other Manchester United player that has so much scrutiny on them between himself, Diogo Dalot at times.
Absolutely.
One very, very poor mistake away from again being, scrutinized terribly, and it happens. It's part and parcel of being a Manchester United player, Miguel.
I think Ollie made a good point about Barclay, the Renaissance. I think Harry Maguire, we're going through something very, very similar with him.
Stu, sorry for cutting across you. Just in regards to Ross Barkley, right? So, I think, again, all the respect in the world to a club like Luton, they go out and ultimately put their heads in the chopping block with a player like Ross Barkley, based on the fact that historically, he was a very, very good player at Everton. There's no doubt about it. Went to Chelsea, wasn't getting in, and it's like your career nearly starts to fizzle out. They picked up players, like you said, the 20 million net spend or whatever it was. They picked up players the likes of Ross Barkley, and second of all, the likes of Andros Townsend on a free. And these boys have been two of the best players. I know Townsend came in a bit later, but these boys have been very, very astute signings for him. It's like you need that bit of love almost, you know what I mean? And that's something that we technically don't give our players the majority of the time. But Luton fans have shown nothing but adherence, and they want, when that happens and you revert that, you get the player wanting to play for the club. And that's what you're seeing from Luton. You're getting players out there on Sunday, and no matter what had happened last Sunday at the Sheffield game, ultimately they're going to go into that game on Sunday saying to themselves, this is Manchester United here in town, and we're going to do our best to win. And they'll be very, very confident coming into the game, because that's what you're getting with players like that, when fans showing adherence towards players who are, effectively their career has been seen as finished elsewhere, with the likes of Townsend at Palace and ultimately Barkley at Nice and that,
I think you're absolutely right. I can see the game being played out in both final thirds. I don't see it being a midfield battle. I think it'll be a final third game on each. Be really, really interesting. I'm really looking forward to it, to be fair. Guys, believe it or not, we've been chinwagging for about an hour. It's been, Ollie, been absolutely brilliant, mate. Darragh and Mark, both of you have been absolutely great. Ollie knows his stuff clearly, which is good. We have had fans on here that don't actually know football.
It was like a history lesson for Luton Town football.
Yes, actually,
genuinely appreciate it.
So the reason why I happen to know a fair bit about the history is I actually work with Hatters Heritage, who are the it's the group that works to. It was set up by the club historian Roger Wash to preserve the history of Luton Town Football Club. So I'd be working very closely, volunteering for Hatters Heritage for I'd say about a year now. The reason why I got into it is because I do love the history of Luton Town. So it's been a big part of what I do in tandem with the WALT podcast as well.
It's an issue we have, Ollie. A lot of our fans don't kind of appreciate our history and our heritage. I had a quick look. I just wanted to know. I think we played each other something like 41 times, haven't we? And not many fans would know. Our guys of Newton Heath was the very first game against Luton.
Yeah, and you know what? We haven't beaten you at Old Trafford since you were Newton Heath.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I mean, look, but the thing is, though, Ollie, as you quite rightly pointed out, it's fits and starts. And when we've been in the same leagues together, we very rarely come across each other in the cups. It's we
played in the Carabao Cup in 2020 behind closed doors.
Yeah,
and I believe we ran you close, but then you brought on Greenwood, Rashford, Fernandez.
We don't mention that first thing. We don't mention that first thing.
Yeah, of course.
Number 11.
Well, funnily enough, my second kid is called Mason, and it was around about the time when this whole thing came out, and I said to my wife, "Do we really want to be calling him Mason?"
Well, very, very well put. Just before we go, guys, I'd like to get your team sheets. Actually, I'd like a score prediction, team sheet, and who you think will be the standout player on each side. So, Darragh and Mark, discuss between yourselves, and then Ollie, come in if you don't mind with your team and who you think will be the important player for Luton and your score. I mean, so discuss it between yourselves, Darragh and Mark, who you think will start, and then go from there.
I suppose, let's be honest, on that end goal, you'd like to think it'd be Maguire and Varane at centre half. Mark, if you want to chime in on the fullback, because realistically it's Dallo and Lindelof.
Yeah. Do you know what though? I'm gonna be slightly bold, Darragh, and I'm gonna revert back to previously in the season. Like, he basically deputised Amrabat in at left full, and I think he has an adherence towards him. I don't know. I like, based on the fact of Lindelof's performance the weekend, I think, like, you know, he could potentially just go there. You know, he could go back there. You know,
I was gonna say back in was it? Sorry,
interesting thought.
Who did he play? He started at left back against some team. It was a Saturday night game, and I can't think off the top of my tongue who it was.
I know what you're saying. He came across to right full back on 4 occasions, played in the middle. I wouldn't be surprised, and I could be wrong here. You might see Shaw play. I don't know why. I just got this feeling Shaw might start.
I feel he'll be on the bench. I don't think they'll take the chance and start him. No, if he's good enough to play, yeah.
Thing is, we're in a situation, fellas, where like Luton can't really afford a loss. We can't really afford a loss. That's the beauty of the jeopardy.
We can't afford our
they'll bring on Luke Shaw
back out either, though. You know,
they'll bring on Luke Shaw after 20 minutes when Ogbene is completely bent over Lindelof.
And Ogbene has made him tear his hamstring.
Yeah.
Oh, well, no, don't say that. Don't say that.
What are you going to go with, lads? You're going to go with Amrabat, or are you going to go with Lindelof?
You know, if he had that adherence to just throwing him at left back,
Mark might just pulled it out of the bag. I think if Shaw doesn't play, I think Mark might just have pulled it out of the bag.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree with it, but I think the fact that Amrabat played very little time bar AFCON, I just don't see it happening. No, I'm, like I said, not completely against it, but I just don't see it happening. The midfield kind of writes itself, if you ask me, like with Casemiro, Mainu, and Bruno. If he reverts to anything other than that midfield three, we might have a rude awakening, because we're so unsung and that midfield is so fluid right now. Changing that midfield would just be suicide at that point, because you're just asking for trouble against Luton, who are just going to press high and play that way. Now, the question is, we know what the front three is going to be. Now, someone might want to correct me. The fact that Rashford had a spell at the right wing, and it wasn't the worst, it wasn't the best. Do you stick with your Rashford on the left, Garnacho on the right, or do you just try and switch it around just to see can it work on the opposite way around? Or
I think he's gonna. I think he'll leave it at that in regards to Garnacho's actually having a relatively good time playing off the right lately.
Yeah.
And as well as that, like Rashford, but as well as that, like I know I said it previously a couple of weeks ago, in regards to them two players, obviously very dynamic and want to open the game up and want a lot of the ball. There's no reason to why they can't alternate at times. If you're not having any joy with any particular fullback, well then it's literally such a stringent move in the game. It's simplistic. Literally switch them. We can't see past them in regards to the starting lineup come Sunday. You're going to have Hoyland up top, and you're going to have the two of them, depending on what position they start off in. But I don't see any issue with them alternating. Rashford obviously open. He wants to play on the left hand side. I reckon if you said that to Garnacho as well, where do you think your best position, your most favorite position is? He'd say off the left as well. However, the difference between the two players is Garnacho wants to play in the sense of you tell him where to play and he'll play, where Rashford has that mentality, I assume, to turn around and say, well, I think my strongest position is off the left, and look, every Man United fan is going to say his strongest position is coming off the left. He doesn't want to play in the 9. He had a terrible time at the start of the year when Hoyland ultimately was out injured. So I think, obviously, that's where his strongest position is. And Garnacho can absolutely flourish over the right-hand side. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's if he uses his brain. Player of the match, guys, and goal score. Score. Sorry, get it out in a minute.
I'll take the back half of this one. I'll nearly give you two separate man the matches. I'll give you one United and I'll give you one Luton.
Okay.
The Luton, well, given how we've been talking about the two of them and praising the two of them, it's either going to be Benny or it's going to be Barclay, because just from what I've watched of Luton, the two of them have been outstanding so far this season. So don't be surprised if the man of the match comes from Luton and it's one of those two. It could be Tin Mengi if he pulls somebody out of the bag in the defence as well. You just don't know. But on the United side, my prediction for man of the match will probably be, I'm going to say either Highland or I'll say Bruno. It's too obvious to say that either of those two, but they could be two pivotal players, really. Score-wise, it's Kennelworth Road. It's going to be scrappy. I felt, just to revert slightly, that you were absolutely robbed in that Liverpool game. Absolutely robbed at Kennelworth Road. It was like, even as a neutral, it was heartbreaking to watch it. No, fair enough. We were kind of hoping for the banter side of it that Liverpool would take the shock of defeat. But nevertheless, it was heartbreaking just to watch how it happened. But unfortunately, it's going to be heartbreak for Luton again, I think, and it'll be just as scrappy. I do feel it'll be 2-1 United. Couldn't exactly pinpoint who scores first or who scores when, but it'll be a scrappy result nonetheless.
Okay. Mark?
I'm going to go the same with Darragh's opinion ultimately. I'd say like a 2-1 result. I can't go goal scorer, so Man United are so open when it comes to that, you know what I mean? Between Hoyland, Rashford, Garnacho, particularly over the past couple of weeks, obviously. One thing I'll go against against the grain in regards to an attacking player for man the match, I'd turn around and say, I'm going to go Mainu for man the match, because I think people are putting Ross Barkley on the pedestal, but I think, come Sunday, I just think he'll have him in his pocket basically when it comes to any attacking sense, or even sitting in the six. So, but look, I don't see past Luton having a bad game. I reckon they're going to have like a relatively decent game. I can't really pick a player off them. Again, I know I'd said it several times at this rate, but from my perspective as an Irishman, I'd like to see Benny have a good game. However, a good game with structure and not do anything against our fullbacks, because it's not right.
Okay, fair enough. And Ollie, your team, man of the match and score prediction, please.
So before I give you my team, I'll just give you two stats that are quite interesting. So these are provided by the person that helps me out with, he's co-admin for Hattis Heritage Twitter, and he runs a separate account called Luton Town Facts and Figures, and the stuff he comes out with is absolutely sensational. So Erik ten Hag will be only the third Dutch-born manager to bring a team to Kennelworth Road. That's after Philip Cocu with Derby in 2020, and Jan Boskamp who was managing Stoke in 2005. And another one, more interesting, it'll be more up your street, Stu. So the last time we played Man United on a Sunday was April 21st, 1985.
Oh, yeah.
And that was 8 million people watched it on TV.
One apiece?
No, it was 2-1.
2-1, did we?
Yeah, we won 2-1, gaining revenge because you beat us 5-0 on TV the previous season. It was also the first time since promotion that David Pleat had beaten one of the top teams. And in that game, Mick Harford scored twice. One of them, a penalty. And Mick Harford was one of those players that Alex Ferguson always regretted not signing. Big centre forwards, massive man mountain. Absolutely tremendous. So in terms of a team for tomorrow, I'd say it sort of picks itself, really. We're pretty settled now. There's only one position where there might be some, queries about it, but who I would have in it. So it'd be Kaminsky in goal, left centre back, Amari Bell, who's the only person in the team that hasn't yet scored or assisted. Like, there have been goals and assists like everywhere else on the pitch. Gabe Osho in the middle, Ted Mengi right centre back, then double pivot of Ross Barkley and Albert Sambi Lokonga, who's on loan from Arsenal. Left wing back Alfie Doughty, right wing back Chio Ogbene. I reckon sitting behind the strikers, Jordan Clark has started 4 in a row, but he's recently back from injury. He missed the entire beginning of the season. So I don't know if he will be starting. I reckon it's one for Andros Townsend, to be honest. So I think Andros Townsend's probably going to be there in the middle, covering the right right wing as well, to like sort of double up on Lindelof, let Bene cut inside, and then up top it'll be Carlton Morris sort of off to the left, trying to attack things from the back post. Elijah Adebayo, main man, in the middle. He's in form. He's loving Premier League life. So a man for the match. I'm actually going to go left wing, literally, with it. Alfie Doughty. He's had a few games. He's been a standout player this season, but he's had a few games where he's been very quiet. He takes our set pieces, and I feel they're going to be very important. They really are. I famously don't do score predictions. I only do them on the Discord server, but on our podcast, we don't do score predictions because we're superstitious. We don't want to put anything out recorded. But I will say there's going to be 1 goal in it. And I think Ross Barkley is going to score a screamer from outside the box.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. I think Casemiro will be our man of the match. I think he'll be pivotal to us. I think we might scrape it 1-0. That's what I think. But I actually think it could go either way. I think it's a really tight game. It's a tough one to call. Ollie, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join us.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you.
You enjoyed talking with the lads. And I hope as I say, we're not like most of the channels out there. We like to have a proper football discussion. So where can people find you, Ollie, as you're our guest?
Yeah, but no, I appreciate you guys, because you're not pricks like Mark Goldbridge. He's annoying. Yes. Yeah, he really is. Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at actual Ollie K. Don't confuse me with the guy from The Athletic who's also Ollie K. I actually do know him. Met him at Kennelworth Road, funnily enough. And we laughed about the fact that we have the same name. You can find the WALT podcast at the WALT podcast. You can find We Are Luton Town on Facebook and Twitter as well, which is at We Are Luton Town. And yeah, come on, you Hatters.
Excellent. Darragh?
Anyone who knows me know, thanks to Julio, I'm now known as the Ryanair Rage. There's a funny story behind that, Holly, if you ever want to figure that out. But no, on Twitter, I am Darragh Cash. Or just straight Darragh Cash, and Darragh_Cash on TikTok, and on Instagram as well, I believe.
Lovely.
Sorry, Darragh Cash one on Instagram. My apologies.
No problem. Mark, do you want to just talk a bit about what you're doing, as well as your handle and that?
Yeah, I just literally there's me handle there, Mark Hannah Malloy. I was able to change it. I made a joke previously because I literally had Mark Hannah Malloy and about 20 numbers that would signify that I'm a bot, but thankfully I was able to change that. I'm a 33-year-old, so like I put it down to, the young youth and exuberance are able to do these things relatively quickly, but I couldn't get my head around it. So anyway, in regards to my Instagram, I think it's the same, but my Instagram is relatively boring. It's literally just pictures of me, my child, and me and my girlfriend, so don't worry about that. Yeah, and in regards to my Twitter, I literally just share stuff in regards to the podcast. I haven't been doing it too long, but thoroughly enjoy it, and but my colleagues don't, because I literally come off the floor for an hour plus where they deal with everything. So,
yeah, has to be done.
Yeah, it has to be done. Thanks very much, lads.
No, brilliant. Just a quick one as well, Manchester Mind. Look, I can't reiterate enough. If you are struggling, anybody that may be struggling, just put your arm around them, have a bit of a chin wag. Us on the panel here at Devil's Advocate Podcast, also available through our Twitter. If you want to reach out to us anonymously, you just want an ear, you want to talk about Manchester United, you want to talk about football, you want to talk about anything. Our partnership with Manchester Mind is massively important to us, and we want it to be important to you as well. So please do not suffer in silence. You can also abuse me at Stu Woolley if you so wish on Twitter. And I think we'll be back Sunday evening for the post-match results, and then hopefully it's a Manchester United win. Thanks again, Ollie. You've been an absolute gent, mate. You really have. Thanks, Darragh and Mark, for joining me. We are out of here.